Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of EcoBrap. Today we're sitting here in our 2019 Kia Niro EV, what's going to be our fully electric tow rig. So it was time for us to install a trailer hitch on the back of the car. We went with the 2-inch Curt. I'll give you the part number down below if you want to check it out. But just be warned, the install was not as easy as we were hoping for. There was a very slight amount of cutting required on the car itself, and then we did have to relocate the mounting holes on the hitch itself. So not the easiest of jobs. It was about a 2 or 3 hour job, but I'll walk you guys through the install and let you know what problems we ran into, things like that.
Step one, we recommend getting the car up in the air. We use metal ramps, you can use jack stands, whatever. Just makes it easier to access everything underneath the car. Step two is to remove the aero panel under the rear bumper. This is where the muffler would usually go on the gas Niro, but because it's electric, Kia just put this aero panel underneath. Unfortunately, it is going to interfere with the hitch install, so you're pretty much going to toss it aside after this. To remove the panel, you're going to do 7 push pin fasteners at the back of the car. You can use a body panel remover, or if you're like me, just use a flathead screwdriver, pry them up, pop them out, good to go. Next, you're going to have to remove 6 10mm nuts towards the front of that panel. You're going to need a deep 10mm socket because 2 of those nuts are on long studs. Finally, don't be an idiot like me. These kind of 2 hex nut things are not actually nuts. They're actually just kind of push fit fasteners that go onto studs underneath the car. Once you've done the 7 push pins and the 6 hex nuts, you can actually just pull the whole assembly down and it'll slide off that push connection right here. Step 3, remove the rubber grommets that are pressed into the frame rail. Just pick them out, pull them off. Won't need them because that is where the hitch is going to mount. Step 4 is unfortunately where we ran into a little bit of a problem. The hitch itself is going to rest up against the frame rail underneath the car. Once you've removed that rubber grommet, you're still left with a metal stud sticking out underneath the frame rail that's going to interfere with putting the hitch up. So you can either buzz that stud off because it's only used to secure the under tray, which we can't reuse anyways, or you could drill into the hitch, I guess, and leave a little slot open for it. But personally, I wanted to leave the hitch as strong as possible, so I took a cutting wheel, got to work, buzzed each stud off on each side, made sure to smooth it out so that the hitch could rest smoothly against the frame rail, and that was it for me. Step 5 is to mount the hitch up onto the frame rails. We're just kind of doing a mock run to see how everything fits. This is unfortunately where we ran into our second problem.
Okay, so we've kind of just mock mounted it. The 2 side bolts do fit from the factory, but we can't rotate the hitch far enough up against the frame rail. So we're gonna have to notch this down towards the bottom of the car so we can actually rotate the hitch towards the frame rail. And we might also have to bore out this hole right here.
So there are 2 important steps when modifying the mounting holes. The first step is to adjust the side mounting holes so that the base of the hitch rests smoothly against the frame rail. As it comes from Curt, there's actually a gap between the frame rail and the hitch, which is not great from a structural standpoint, so you do need to adjust these side holes in order to make it fit nicely against the frame rail. The second step is to adjust the lower mounting holes so that you can get the drop bolt from the frame rail to go down through the hitch. Doesn't have to be lined up perfectly with that circle, but you do need the bolt to drop through vertically with no angle. While the hitch was mounted under the car, we used a paint pen to kind of mark where we thought the holes needed to move to, and then we hit the workbench. We tried a multitude of tools, but it ended up being a carbide rotary burr bit on a die grinder that did the best job at slotting these holes. Once you've slotted those hitch mounts well enough that the hitch mounts nicely up against the frame rail and you have access to the 3 mounting points on each side, it's time for step 7, which is to finally install the hitch. You need to start with the vertical bolt first, which is going to require the use of a fish wire, which is included in the kit. First, you need to insert the fish wire through the washer and then thread the carriage bolt onto the fish wire. You then basically shove everything up into the frame rail, drag the bolt back down, and the washer will lock everything up there. You then need to mount the hitch up there, and that will require inserting the fish wire through the vertical bolt hole on the hitch so that you can then remove the fish wire and then thread on the nut onto the vertical bolt. Make sure that when you thread that lower nut on, you're very gentle, because if you do push too hard, you're going to push the bolt up into the frame rail, and it'll be a bit of a circus trying to get that out of there. Then insert the side bolts into the frame rail with the washer's teeth facing the frame rail. You want it to bite in there. Finally, tighten everything down with an 11/16 socket, torque it to the spec in the handbook, and you're ready to go.
That's it, the hitch is installed on the car. It wasn't quite as easy as expected, but we're looking forward to trying it out. We're going to be putting it through a multitude of tests, so kind of more tongue weight intrusive things like putting a motorcycle carrier on the back, and that'll be 300 to 400 pounds on the back of the hitch. We'll also be doing towing with it, towing up to about 3,100 pounds. So if you're curious about that stuff and seeing if the car is capable, how much the range changes, all that stuff, make sure to stay tuned on that front. Some other little projects and DIY stuff that we might be posting here is, well, first of all, the next thing we have to do is install the trailer harness, because we need a 7-pin trailer plug to hook up to the car that controls our lights, turn signals, brakes. So if you want to see how we're going to figure that out, make sure to like and subscribe. We also might have to install some airbags inside the rear coil springs if the car sags too much while we're towing or have a bunch of tools in the back. So stay tuned for that as well. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll catch you guys next time.